Alright, we're gonna switch to the down low. The down low because this is part 4 and I'm losing track of things. But hopefully the sun will make this phone less hot. Anyway, the audio is what's important. So, what I was saying is that nationalism rejects and tables and deprioritizes the question of religion. Religion is the main question. Now, as part of your religion, that ultimately, if you have a successful religion, you're ultimately going to have an ethnic component, right? You know, some people say, well, you can be any race. Like, you could be a black Jew, you could be Asian Jew. There, you know, Jews come in all colors and shapes and sizes. But ultimately, ethnicities like the Sephardim and Ashkenazim and Mizraim coalesce as a result of the ethnicity of Judaism. The Mormons, you can say, well, he could be any race as a Mormon, any ethnicity. Yes, but there's a type of a person who's a Mormon because of when you have a religion and religion governs marriage, that becomes a selective pressure, and ultimately over time you're going to get an ethnicity even if you didn't start with one. But that's the order of things, that first you have a successful religious structure, then as a result you're going to have ethnic structures. But the one is dependent on the other. If you don't have a successful religious structure, then your ethnicity is, you know, it's basically subject to instinct. And if you're relying on pure instinct to get you where you need to go, I refer you to addiction, I refer you to obesity, I refer you to all the ways in the modern world where relying on pure instinct does not work. It is not a successful strategy. You need religion. So what I'm saying is we need to prioritize religion. And when we prioritize religion, that means we're necessarily not nationalists. It means that just because someone's the same ethnicity, just because someone's Irish, does not make them your brother or your sister. Now, maybe in some kind of universalistic sense, we're all humans, we're all brothers and sisters, sure. But in terms of forming authentic in-groups that are effective and that work, that are high trust, where you can say, yeah, you're a part of my in-group, okay? Not everyone who's in your ethnicity is going to be in your in-group. Now, if you have a successful enough religion, eventually you will proselytize all members or virtually all members of an ethnicity into that in-group. In the way that, you know, throughout time, basically, if you're Ashkenazi, you were part of the religion of Judaism. You know, in the same way that if you're, you know, of Mormon stock, if you're of Mormon descent, most likely you're part of the Mormon church. Now that's changing with secularism. Secularism and nationalism complement each other, and they undermine religions, and they create these people who are like, well, I'm ethnically Mormon, I'm not religiously Mormon. I'm ethnically Jewish, I'm not religiously Jewish. That is basically a form of degeneration. That is the effect of secularism, is that it melts people and makes their identity much more general. Well, I'm not any particular religion, that doesn't matter. What matters is the ethnicity. And when you take this idea of liquefying people's identities, if you take that further, if you apply the logic of nationalism to nationalism, what you eventually get is civic nationalism, where now ethnicity doesn't matter at all, and now it's just, you know, were you born on this plot of land? Do you have this set of papers? You know, it basically becomes a bureaucracy, and we all understand the superficiality of that. And so we have to understand the role that nationalism has played in terms of destroying identity, not building it up, not making it better, but destroying it. And we have to understand that the origin of identity in the modern world, it's not going to be found in your instincts, it's not going to be found in your blood, it's not going to be found in your ethnicity, it's going to be found in religion. You have to get that direction correct. And so the question and the problem is therefore a religious one. Now, you're still saying, well, why do we have to be minoritarians? Can't we still be majoritarian? Can't we evangelize to everybody? Can't we be one big happy family? And eventually, probably, yes, probably through globalist imperialism, we will find a religion that creates a big happy family, at least to the extent that that is possible, in the same way that the Roman Empire for a time was a Christian empire. The Holy Roman Empire and so many empires of Europe were Christian empires, right? So, the Caliphate was Muslim, the Mongols, well, the Mongols aren't the best example, but, the Tibetan Buddhists or whatever. So you can have a situation where eventually, in hundreds of years, one religion comes out on top, and we can once again have a majoritarian society where pretty much everyone's the same normative religion. We can have a form of patriotism for the empire. That's all well and good. But where we are right now, if you look at the dominant religion, it is not Christianity, it is not Judaism, it is not Islam, it is liberalism. Liberalism, scientism, humanism, secularism, whatever you want to call it. That's the dominant religion of our time. And it continues to change, and it continues to push and morph and change into this anti-racist, anti-sexist new fanaticism, right? Because basically it has not found its steady point. It has not found something that works, and so it continues to morph and it continues to try new things. And we can clearly see that liberalism in its current form is not sustainable. We cannot have this eternal crusade against, every form of perceived racism, against every form of perceived sexism. The only way we're going to achieve that is if we have an entirely new species. I would argue that we will have an entirely new species eventually. And we're in the process of creating that, and Nietzsche talked about that, and you can find examples of that in the concept of, the Christian new man, or the socialist new man, whatever. We are eventually going to have a new species. We're not quite there yet. So liberalism is not really working for people. It's not it's not satisfying these human needs. It's not forming this sense of an in-group. It's not forming this sense of trust. It's this highly contentious, combative, it's an extremely warlike religion. Dugin has talked about the sense in which liberalism is extremely imperialistic, extremely aggressive, extremely absolute in its desire to conquer the whole globe, and it will accept nothing less than total global supremacy, and that's correct. He's correct in that. I would argue that Dugin's idea of, what does he say? What is it? Fourth position or fourth political theory, and his multipolarity, I would argue that's just regressive. It's just reactionary, and I don't believe in it. I believe in going forward. I believe we will have a globalist empire.